Are you a high income earner trying to figure out what to do with your cash? Stop, watch this video before opening your next high yield account. Find out why I hate CDs and what you should be doing with your cash instead. When your primary objective is to build wealth sooner or later, too much cash is a real thing. That being said, there are always reasons for us to keep some cash on hand. For instance, we need an emergency fund. A high-yield savings account is a perfectly fine place to keep this money. But before you open your next high-yield account, there's a few things that you need to know. One, you want to look at the interest rate and the terms of the interest rate. All banks offer different terms and details. Some banks might be a high yield savings account. Some banks might be a money market savings account. There are slight differences between these two accounts. A high yield savings account may have less accessibility. It may not be as easy to transfer funds to and from. You probably can't get like a debit card or check writing privileges for that account, but it may offer a slightly higher interest rate. A money market savings account may offer more flexibility for moving funds in and out of the account. They will have different terms and conditions. The main one that you want to make sure that you are paying attention to is the terms of the introductory APY. That's the annual percentage yield. A lot of banks put in the fine print that annual percentage that they are going to pay you on your cash is only set up for a certain period of time. And most people don't realize that the banks can change those rates overnight. If you sign up for an account at 4%, a week later, it could be paying you 1%. There are no rules or regulations around high yield savings accounts and the banks that offer them being able to change those rates. Some banks will say this is your rate for the first 6 months. After that, it's changeable. Some banks, like Marcus, Goldman Sachs' high yield savings account, for example, says explicitly right under the main advertisement that this rate can change anytime before or after you've opened your account. So they're not even giving you an introductory 3 or 6 months, whatever it might be. So you really want to pay attention to these things so you're not surprised when all of a sudden your cash isn't earning interest anymore, because they can change those rates overnight. The other thing to keep in mind with that, if they say you're getting 4% APY for the first 3 months, that does not mean that you're going to earn 4% in 3 months. That means if they were to give you that rate over the course of 12 months, you would earn a total of 4%. So if they're offering it for 3 months, that is 1/4 of a year, that is 25%, you would earn a total of 1% interest over the course of those 3 months. This is really important to understand. A lot of people don't realize that sometimes these deals are not nearly as good as what they seem to be. The other thing to keep in mind with high yield savings accounts that surprises a lot of people this time of year, and even more so in April when it comes time to file taxes, is that every single one of these high yield savings accounts that you open, the interest that you earn is taxable ordinary income, and you are going to get a 1099 from this account each year. So for this reason, I highly recommend just pick one high yield savings account, stick to it. Once you have your proper emergency funds set up inside of one of these high yield savings accounts, try to avoid keeping too much more cash there. And if you're looking for other places to spread out money, like you're worried about FDIC coverage, so that's why you're using multiple different banks, I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. Finally, the reason that I recommend not keeping any more than just your emergency fund inside of a high yield savings account is that you're stuck with the terms of whatever that bank offers. You have no flexibility unless you want to move your money, close the account, open a new one. It's a pain in the butt. So after we are talking about the money that you need just for your emergency fund, whatever that emergency fund is for you, there are better options for you to consider than another high yield savings account. Before we get into what those better options are, I will tell you that a CD, certificates of deposit, are not what I recommend as one of those options. A few quick reasons for that are that CDs, I find, tend to be more of a pain in the butt than what they are worth. When you invest the money into a CD, it's 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. You are now locked up for that period of time. If you want to take your money out before the end of that period, the bank is going to charge you surrender charges and penalties to take your money out early. I really don't like this. You're likely to need the money. It's not a great offer. And in addition, I've seen so many clients that have their money tied up in CDs, they forget to speak with the bank before the end of the term of the CD. They miss the notice that the bank sends them, and then the bank automatically rolls it into another CD. This is enough to pull your hair out. It will drive you crazy. You will fight with the bank and say, I didn't want it to roll it. It doesn't matter. It's just what they do. Again, this is a couple of reasons I do not recommending CDs for your excess cash beyond your emergency fund. So what should we do? Instead of opening a bunch of high yield investment and savings accounts, just open one non-retirement brokerage account. In fact, you probably already have one of these accounts. You may have one that you manage on your own. You may have one that an advisor manages for you. But I find that these accounts offer you the most flexibility and options for where to keep your excess cash. Now, what are we talking about with excess cash beyond our emergency fund? Maybe we need it in the next year or so to pay college tuition. Maybe we're making a big down payment on a house. Maybe we just have extra cash that we're not exactly sure what we want to do with it, but we don't want to put it into the market. We're not ready to go buy a piece of real estate. So what do we do with it? I like a non-retirement brokerage account because you have a whole world of options available to you that most people aren't even aware of. For starters, in a non-retirement brokerage account, you could just go buy a money market mutual fund, and it's probably going to pay a similar or higher rate of interest than what you would get at the bank at your high yield savings account. And the beauty of the money market mutual fund is that while it might not have FDIC coverage, it still has SPIC coverage, which for sake of time in the video today, check out below for details about SPIC coverage. It's very similar to FDIC, and you can have a money market mutual fund. And if the interest rates drop, you don't have to open a new account. You can just sell the money market mutual fund and go buy a different money market mutual fund if that's what you want to do with your cash. If you want to take a step up from a true money market mutual fund where you have the FDIC or SPIC coverage, then you can look at ultra short-term bonds inside of a non-retirement brokerage account. Because they are ultra short-term bonds, they are not volatile in relation to changes in interest rates like most bonds are when people think of investing in bonds. There are ultra short bond funds and ETFs that you can invest into that are completely liquid. You can trade in and out of them anytime you want. They are still considered extremely conservative investments and not a bad place to keep cash that you want a higher rate of return on, yet you're just not exactly sure what you're going to do with the money in the not too distant future. Now, with ultra short-term bonds, there's two different options that you can check out that I think are worth your time. One is just a straight up ultra short-term bond fund where the interest is still taxable interest income to you, but you're going to get probably anywhere from 0.5% to a percentage rate higher interest than what you would get in a money market account, and especially from a high yield savings account. The other option that you have is an ultra short-term municipal bond fund. So as a high income earner, you're going to be tax conscious. A lot of people forget that all these cash type high interest accounts that we have, it's all taxable ordinary income. It's just going to slap on top of all of the other $1 million a year that you're making in an ordinary income. A municipal bond fund could be a tax exempt interest income to you, meaning that the interest that you earn from a municipal bond fund may be a lower percentage rate of interest, but it is federally tax exempt, so you're not having to pay ordinary income tax on the money that you're earning. This can be a great option for folks who are looking for somewhere to keep their money. You don't need to go open another high yield savings account. You can just use the non-retirement investment account that you already have open, and there is so much flexibility inside of this account to change funds and do different things with your cash. Or maybe you just decide, hey, you know what? I don't need this money. I'm not going to use it. Well, in 2 clicks, you can go and get the money invested into the market if that's what you decide. Now, I would tell you with things like the ultra short-term bond funds and getting money invested, if you're not comfortable doing it on your own, speak with a qualified advisor to get help with these decisions. The moral of the story here is that a high-yield savings account is not ultimately going to be the best place to keep your cash beyond your emergency fund. For more information about the difference between taxable interest income and tax-exempt income, I've got a video coming out shortly on that, breaking it down for you and exactly what to look out for. So please subscribe, like, follow, so that you can check out that video as soon as it comes out.